Kurt Gassner. I'm 75 years old. Most people my age are slowing down. Some are retiring, some are looking back. I decided to do something different. I packed a bag, boarded a plane, and traveled alone across South America for 60 days, from Patagonia to Colombia, not to escape life, but to experience it more fully. These films are not about destinations. They're about days, real thoughts, real encounters. Join me on this journey, one day at a time. I stopped waiting. Shortened morning ritual. I would rather use the time for writing. The night was still somewhat restless, but because I went to bed early, I nevertheless feel well rested. Breakfast like yesterday. The crowd has hardly changed. Everything very well kept. Recoleta in the morning, discreet, elegant, quiet. At exactly 9:30 my guide arrives, or should I say female guide, this time on foot, without a driver. We immediately head off to the Cementerio de la Recoleta. Yes, the cemetery, but this is not an ordinary cemetery as we know them. Since I more or less live next to a cemetery myself, I am practically a cemetery expert. No, this here is a city of the dead, and this city of the dead turns out to be more magnificent than the city of the living. Apparently, the vision of a better life after death has been carved here into stone. Every family with any status owns a mausoleum, often 5 stories high, with staircases leading deep underground. Inside these little palaces of the dead stand the coffins. There are even chairs so one can hold conversations with the deceased. An extraordinary cult of the dead. Also touching are the ATM machines, as my guide calls them, glass mausoleums into which one can look directly. Some are Baroque, others Art Deco, others again almost avant-garde modern. Each of these palaces of the dead must cost millions, not even counting the maintenance. Evita Peron is buried here as well. My guide, politically probably more on the left, opponent of Milei, hater of Trump, tells me that after Evita's death, she was first exiled, that her body had been stolen, and that all kinds of terrible things happened. To prevent another theft of the corpse today, surveillance cameras are installed everywhere. Still slightly dazed from this city of the dead, she explains the schedule for the day. Yesterday we had visited the Centro/Microcentro San Telmo, the Bohemian and Problem District, as well as Puerto Madero, the quarter of the beautiful and the rich. Naturally also Recoleta, the district of old money. Today, the western part of this giant city is on the program. 3 million people in the city itself, up to 10 million in the surrounding metropolitan area. She shows me everything on a map. Just the thought of the walking distances already makes me slightly dizzy. Palermo is on the schedule. Palermo Soho, Palermo Hollywood, and the Palermo Woods, the large green city park. Off we go. Unbelievable how much energy there is in this small person. Buenos Aires is paradoxical. The dead rest in palaces, and a gigantic castle-like building, the size of Windsor Castle, turns out to be a waterworks. The facade, like a palace, elaborate statues, stucco, grandeur, everything authentic. Inside, pumps and water tanks, poco loco, or perhaps actually very Argentinian. She shows me the universities, including the one where she studied herself. Magnificent buildings. The central hospital, on the other hand, looks rather run down. She remarks dryly, typical Malay, cutting social services. She also points out the little things to me. Typical here, she says, are the crescent-shaped pastries, the media luna, along with small pastries in all possible flavors, one more intersection, and then the long-announced highlight. We are standing in what is probably the most beautiful bookshop in the world, although bookshop is almost blasphemy. It is a theater for books, Grand Opera, a former magnificent theater with stucco, stage, balconies and boxes has been transformed into a gigantic bookstore, El Ateneo Gran Splendid, in the Recoleta/Barrio Norte district. Readers sit in the theater boxes browsing books. On the old stage there is now a cafe. Everywhere, light, books, wood, stucco, dignity. I have never seen such a selection and presentation before. Yes, writers are truly appreciated and revered here. I also do not want to forget the literary cafe just around the corner in Recoleta, only a few steps from the Mio Hotel, La Biela. Writers, artists, and famous racing drivers like Juan Manuel Fangio used to gather here. I sit down beside my famous colleagues at the table, although they are now only alive as statues, and my guide takes a photo. We move around like the locals and immediately take the subway, the subte. Surprise, the subway is spotless and modern. Everything runs electronically, including payment. We get on. Unfortunately, the intended stop is closed and we go too far. No problem. My guide asks around, and shortly afterwards, we are already standing at the neighboring platform. 3 stations later, we get off again. There Palermo Soho welcomes us, formerly one of the first stations for many Italian immigrants, today one of the trendiest neighborhoods in the city. Lovingly restored houses, beautiful boulevard cafes, tree-lined avenues, small boutiques, bars, galleries. Art is everywhere here. Almost every wall becomes a work of art. My guide knows the famous street artists who paint here. One walks through entire gallery streets, oversized, monumental, colorful. Some images are simply beautiful, others carry clear political messages. Still others deal with brutal social realities and their contradictions. This wall art is respected here. Nothing gets damaged or sprayed over. Every artist signs with his monogram. Art comes to the people, directly onto the streets, and does not remain hidden away in museums. That is something we could learn from Argentina. Again and again, the heroes of Argentine history appear: Maradona, Fangio, Evita, and others. One detail my guide points out: often, the artist integrates a kind of bulletin board into the mural. On this public surface, groups place social and political messages, calling for demonstrations, commenting on current events. Argentina is politicized and divided. My guide grew up entirely during inflationary times. Galloping currency devaluation was everyday life for her. People helped themselves by investing quickly in material assets or changing money into dollars, and definitely not bringing those dollars to the bank. Saving under the mattress. A very serious subject here. The rich have dollar accounts abroad. The middle class hides dollars at home. Nobody trusts the banks. Too often money suddenly disappeared, or dollars were converted into inflation currency, or only paid out in installments. Banks are a black hole here. How an economy can permanently function under such conditions is beyond me. She also admits that an entire generation grew up in this inflation mentality and now has to relearn everything. It becomes increasingly clear to me why Argentina kept going bankrupt again and again. If the mentality does not change, the country will probably never truly become stable. Interesting also what she tells me about her own life. The father of her daughter, her former husband, is an artist, more precisely, a wall painter. He paints house facades for money and loves his free artistic life. She herself comes from a rather wealthy family. Her father studied at MIT and is a senior engineer. Her mother a real estate agent. In the relationship, she was always the breadwinner. That itself never bothered her. What truly bothered her, and ultimately led to the separation, was the constant fighting. Today, the daughter lives 3 days with the father and 4 days with her. She pays for the education. She does not want child support from him, even though legally she would be entitled to it. Her reasoning: how could she advocate left-wing positions, fight for equal pay, and then demand personal privileges like alimony? Consistent woman. I also tell her about my family, about Elisa, who built up OHIA Meditation in Berlin, a center for modern spirituality. She also completed yoga teacher training and even taught actively for a year. In the meantime, she no longer practices because the asanas cause nerve damage. To me, that completely misses the point of yoga if the exercises leave you physically damaged. But that is another subject. Our conversations revolve constantly around politics and society, and each time it is easy to recognize that her heart leans left. We continue walking through various gallery streets and eventually stop in a small cafe. Finally, mineral water, a small sandwich, then onward again. We pass an original ice cream shop. Every cone is decorated as a cat. People eat with their eyes too. I buy her an ice cream, and a German tourist nearby takes a photo of 2 people licking ice cream. By now, we have been walking for 4 hours and crossed several of the most beautiful squares. The atmosphere feels like Paris, only more colorful, more alive, and perhaps even cleaner. Argentina bankrupt and poor? After Buenos Aires, I definitely have to differentiate that image in my mind. We want to take the bus back to the hotel and get lucky. Line 120 is supposed to drop us almost directly in front of the Mio Hotel in Recoleta after 6 stops. Like a real local, I pay electronically with my Wise card. Everything done, I say goodbye to my guide. They were exhausting, exciting, intense 2 days. Now I need to rest a little and write everything down. In the evening at 7 p.m., I want to go to a jazz concert. Today, I will actually manage it. Around 5 p.m., I test the hotel spa on the 8th floor. The swimming pool is beautiful, but so shallow that one cannot really swim. After 2 laps under the watchful eyes of a young concierge sitting directly beside the pool, I want to try the steam bath. That first has to be switched on as well. It takes 10 minutes until it becomes warm. After 1 round, shower, done. Tomorrow perhaps I will test the fitness room. Hopefully that one performs better. I dress up and order an Uber to Palermo. Destination, back room. A mixture of bookstore, cafe, concert stage, restaurant and bar. An original concept. Punctually at 7, the Uber drops me off after about 20 minutes. I walk to the reservation desk. The place is already well filled. Young crowd, Argentinians, hardly any tourists. "Ah, Kurt," she says, and seats me in the middle in front of the stage. Exactly right. Close enough to experience the music and atmosphere, far enough not to sit inside the saxophone. I order a glass of red wine and a small roasted cauliflower. The 3-man band is already playing. Good. I'm nevertheless surprised how full everything is at these prices. Restaurants, bars, concerts, everything well attended. People are fashionably dressed. Traffic roars outside. Buses and trains are clean and functioning. I cannot recognize a decaying, bankrupt state here. Perhaps much really does lie in the mentality. We are a rich country. We deserve this. My tour guide casually told me that a teacher only earns $2,000 net per month. At the same time, a full-time nanny is practically considered normal. That costs about $800. meaning one has to take a second job. When I say that in Austria hardly any teacher could afford a nanny, I receive only puzzled looks. In general, the Argentine middle class is astonishingly well-traveled. The drama of Argentina increasingly seems to me a mental problem. We are infinitely rich. We can afford everything. Reality naturally looks different. Perón and the Peronists had the idea of redistribution. Take from the rich and give to the poor immigrants. The rich reacted with total refusal. Capital flight, disinvestment, dollars abroad. What the country itself did not possess, it simply borrowed from the rest of the world, without seriously thinking about repayment. Result: national bankruptcies, hyperinflation, mistrust. The crazy thing, salaries, especially in the public sector, rose automatically with inflation. A never-ending story. Jobs were created mainly in the state apparatus. One wanted to be social, unemployment had to be prevented. At the same time, there were 13th salaries and all the blessings of a welfare state like in the most highly developed countries. I think the Argentinians live far beyond their means. They are a resource-rich developing country, but not an industrial nation like Germany, Switzerland, or Austria. Now Milei is carrying out the great experiment. Massive cuts in the public sector, cuts in the welfare system, massive resistance from the unions. There will be heated months ahead in Argentina. How this experiment ends remains open. At the moment, they are probably in the worst phase of every transformation. People feel inflation, loss of purchasing power and cuts, but no upswing yet. Many understand that endless debt and living on credit cannot continue, but they still do not want to bear the consequences. Living with illusions and self-deception is simply more comfortable, and the tango continues. With these thoughts, I listen to the jazz band. They are really making an effort. Only unfortunately, jazz is not entirely my taste. The wine tastes good. The tiny roasted cauliflower with a few cashew nuts as well. The place keeps getting fuller. Then I see people entering with umbrellas. Time to pay. I'm quite astonished when the bill for this tiny appetizer and one glass of wine comes to $31. $31. And the place is full, packed full, with Argentinians. I walk outside again and stroll a little through Palermo. In the evening, the district feels safe and alive. Bars, restaurants, lights, people, voices, one beside the other, and all of them well attended. Poor, rich Argentina. The drizzle has meanwhile turned into steady rain. So I call an Uber. 3 minutes later, the driver arrives and takes me back to Recoleta and the Mio Hotel. Uber works excellently here, and compared to restaurants, it is almost cheap. About €6 for a 20-minute ride. No complaints there. At the hotel, I head for the bar. Private event. I briefly consider going to another wine bar. One glance outside is enough. Rain. So I decide to end the evening with writing.